So Scott here is actually what I would call a professional in the sales department for M&A investing. And I met Scott in a consulting course and group where like he just helps people actually get deals done. And I love his perspective. I love his calm persona when he's talking to sellers. I remember one thing that you told me, Scott, it was you just got to step back and be casual with the sellers and see what they really want and act like you're
Yeah,
sipping a cup of coffee. And in fact, I got my cup of coffee right here for us.
I got my
So,
bottle of water. We're good.
and so, no, I really took that. And I remember being on a call just, I would say, a few days ago. And I do this continuously, and I always have your saying in the back of my mind, and it's like when you get on these M&A calls, people are thinking, oh, private equity, private equity, private equity, or all this like crazy stuff. And you're really just having a conversation to see what are
Yeah.
their goals and what are they trying to achieve. And I don't think a lot of new investors that are trying to buy business actually realize that. They always have this big guard up instead of just building rapport with the person. And the seller too, like they think they can't actually like let their guard down and actually explain to you what they're trying to achieve. And it really just makes a harder almost not, I'm not going to even say a sale, but like it makes it harder for the person you're talking to actually help you. So I would love to know your perspective on it, if any new insights that you got through this whole process. I know you're doing tons of deals, and I just want to figure out like, hey, where are you at with this, and what are some like tips that you can give people when they're trying to go out and actually acquire these businesses, or at least just like partner with the owners themselves?
I was in the Napa Valley and I got a chance to sit at a dinner table for a Deca, a tens of $1 million deal. And the conversation was just like this.
Yep.
It just like we're talking right now. And so one of the sellers said, "Hey, what is it that you want?" I'm sorry, the buyer said, "What is it that you want?" And the seller said, "I'm looking for fill in the blank." And we're talking tens of millions. And the counter was, the only way I can do that is if dot dot dot. And it was like a pretty significant ask. There wasn't a ton of pressure. There wasn't a ton of butting heads. I mean, the two guys knew each other, but it was just a very calm, relaxed conversation. I was a corporate sales trainer for 10 years, and I had to figure out how to get people to have this type of conversation. So, Justice, would it be all right if I share how to make that happen?
Absolutely. That's what we're here
Right.
for.
So what ends up happening is I see professionals, I see salespeople make this mistake of they start putting different hats on and become different people. So you and I are having a conversation right now. Let me put on my sales hat, right? So now I'm going to be somebody else, and then let me flip this around,
Like,
and now I'm somebody else, right? And it's very confusing to the people that you meet with. Hey, where was the guy or the girl that we were talking to 10 or 15 minutes ago? And sometimes it's overly aggressive. And I like to meet people where they're at with their energy. And then I like to lower it just like a couple of steps because people get amped up. We're going to talk about tens of millions, hundreds of millions, thousands of dollars is still even important. So I devised this way is like if you're going to sit down with me and we're going to have beverages, I've got my water. How would you sit in your chair? Right? How would you sit if you and I were just
yeah.
having a conversation? I'd be a little bit relaxed. I might take a couple of sips of my water. You may make a point and say, "Hey, Scott, here's a deal point that I want to deal with," and I may take a sip of my water. That's a pause. That's like a natural pause to put into the conversation. And if you find yourself on a Zoom and you're having a deal go through or you're meeting live, there's something about your anxiety will get pushed into whatever you're holding. You could tap your fingers, you could twist and twirl. I mean, I wouldn't do too much of it because it becomes disruptive. But what you'll find is the conversation becomes conversational. It doesn't become sales. It doesn't become deal. It becomes, man, I just like that person was just really calm with me. Now, for us, one of the struggles that we have is most ideas of a deal, if you've never seen one, come from movies. Most ideas of sales come from movies. And some of it's true, but it's some of it's movie magic. And for some people who have never seen a deal, it's confusing because they're like, oh, this is who I'm supposed to be. But I would much rather take the laid back, hey, we're going to chill out approach and everything's going to be okay.
Almost like
Right?
they're
There
talking
is
to
a,
somebody familiar, pretty much.
yeah, yeah. Like right now, I'm trying to slow down the conversation by my yeahs. Yeah. Right. So you can adopt. It's about 100 to 110 words per minute is
Mm.
about where you want to max out. When you start talking really fast, yeah, you can close some deals, and people go, wait, what did he say? What was he talking about? What was going on?
So, Scott, let me ask you a question on that.
Yeah,
What is the main reason why people do that, though? Like, my assumption is that we're trying to force the outcome. We're trying to force we got to get this deal done or we got to get something accomplished on this call. And by doing that, you're kind of leaning into the camera. You're saying all your points and all this other stuff. When in reality is you should be probably just building rapport, getting to know this person, and just trying to see if do you even really want to work with them, or can you work together? In kind of sense, what is your perspective on that? Like, why do people, in my I guess vague statement, take it too seriously?
yeah. I'm going to give you an example. Today, I'm on the Big Island of Hawaii. I'm in Kona. Yesterday, I was on Oahu. I was near Honolulu, and the volcano started going off. The volcano goes off for somewhere between 8 to 12 hours. And when it goes off, the entire island stops and everybody moves and they make a rush and then they do crazy things and then they park in traffic and they run through the trail. We tend to do the same thing in the deal. We're like, there's a deal. I have to get it done right now. And because I got to get it done, I got to do all these crazy things. When in all realities, that's a misrepresentation of what's really going on. That deal will be there.
Yeah.
There's a deal right now that I've been working on with a partner for a year, and it's been stalled, and then it wasn't stalled, and then it was stalled. And the minute that you start showing it's got to get done right now, the other person starts pushing back and like, I'm just going to drag my feet even more.
Hmm.
Uh, Completed a deal in June that took 18 months to close. And a lot of things went wrong on that deal in those 18 months, but a lot of things went right. And had I would have been like, we have to get this done, we have to get this done, we have to get this done, we would have missed the things that were important to both sides.
Scott, let me ask you a framework, or what would you say is the step-by-step process when you're trying to acquire or partner with these big opportunities, whether it's an M&A deal or a real estate investment deal? Like, for me, I've noticed okay, you're not just going to get that on the first call, right? It's like a series of calls and like a framework in a sense that you kind of eventually tailor. But I'm curious in your mind, like, how do you typically do it?
It's like fishing. Like sometimes you go out there, you cast out, and you just, man, I'm not getting anything today. So you just start thinking to yourself, and then I got to remind myself not to do stinking thinking, like, oh, everything's gonna fall apart, the deal's gonna fall apart. And in all reality, is like I'm on my timeline. This deal is right about where it should be. I'm just gonna relax. Like I came out here to go fishing. I came out here to do a deal. It doesn't like in any time that there's some weird time constraint, there's almost always a problem. 9 times out of 10, when someone's like, it's got to get done right now, we have to, like, that's a constraint where you better start asking some questions and going, what is going on? How come we're in such a rush? What are you trying to hide? And so it's counterintuitive. Your brain is telling you, I've got to get this deal done. I've got a dot on the horizon, like right, let me get my camera going. Right there, I've got a dot on the horizon that I've got to get to, and I'm marching towards it. And I got to get to it fast, and I got to do this thing, and I got to impress all the people around me, and they got to see that I got the deal done. In all realities, my framework is it takes the time that it takes.
Would you
I wish I had like a longer explanation for
No,
you.
I no, I completely agree with you actually. My question for a tangible takeaway too, I'm curious where have you seen commonalities between the time that it takes? So first call goes well, second call it goes a little bit downhill, third call you start getting into the weeds of the valley of despair a little bit. Then you start fourth call, you start going up a hill again, you start building more rapport, figuring out what's the real issue, or like is there like a common thing that typically happens that you've seen with all the calls that you've done?
Yeah, I look at it as a test. They're testing me. They're putting me under stress to see what I'm going to do, how I'm going to react. They want to know that I'm the right partner, so they're going to throw a couple of curveballs at me just to make sure that I'm doing the deal the way it should be done. They may be nervous. It may be their first deal, and maybe their first sale, and so there is a little bit of hand holding. There is a little bit of everything's going to be okay. You're going to be all right.
Hmm. It's almost like the from the beginning call or even beginning of contact is due diligence. Like people are like
Yeah.
negotiation and due diligence is happening immediately before you even hear what's their business website or whatever. Um, and
If you
just
listen to Jim Camp from Start With No or Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, they'll tell you the most dangerous negotiation that you're in is the one that you don't know you're in.
mm,
And and what you're going to find is we're all in negotiations all day, every day.
right.
And sometimes it's a negotiation for attention. Sometimes it's a negotiation for money. Sometimes it's a negotiation for where I'm going to sit or where I'm going to stand.
How, for the audience, like how can you I think what we're talking about will help people understand that, or it's a tactic to help people get through that pressure of this negotiation or a negotiation maybe you don't even know you're in. But like, what's a good takeaway where the audience can actually, when they're entering these calls, like just stay relaxed, understand, like just be casual, just like you know,
I look at it. I love to spend time on the beach. I love tropical weather. I love being out in Hawaii. So for me, the whole idea is if I was sitting in a lawn chair in a beach, how would I act?
hmm,
Right? That is my operating process. That's my OS. That's what I'm going to do. Now, occasionally, depending upon what's going on, the rise of emotion goes up. I could think of a time I think where you and I were working on a deal and some things went sideways and it didn't necessarily work out. The emotions went up, right? It was necessary at that point to say, what is going on here? But for the most part, 99% of the time, laid back, chilled, and relaxed. Every once in a while, you got to let the wolf out at 1% of the time. Like, hey, here's what's going to happen.
hmm. What would you say the biggest mistake people trying to approach these sellers are making when they are trying to get deals done that you've seen?
They're not understanding. They're not alone. I mean, M&A is hot right now. There's a lot of people doing it, and just because you get somebody on the phone once doesn't mean that they're going to do the deal. Even if you get them on the phone twice. One of the deals that just got completed was a 4-year process. So I'm sort of start to finish, beginning to end, 4 years. And so, everybody wants to have this story they could tell from a stage or at a bar, or on a Zoom call where they're like, yeah, called this guy a day later, I had $1 billion deal done. Like, okay, probably not.
Yeah, it just that doesn't seem practical at all. I've noticed like I mean, well, you got to think the reality. Most businesses, I guess, depending on the bigger businesses, they don't really have this problem as much, but smaller businesses, we'll say like 200 to maybe 2 million in EBITDA and SDE or whatever. They typically don't have their financials ready anyway, So how are you supposed to even make an offer if you don't even understand uh, what they're making? And like me from the beginning, I was like, you need to send me your financials for me to even really talk to you. And that kind of bit me, in the future because it's like that nothing is ready, right? And they're gonna get back to me a year later with those financials, and then it'll maybe we can talk. But I started realizing like, why don't I just start having the conversation now and keep building that rapport over time with them? I don't care if you have financials, as long as you're clearly stating like for sure this is what you want to do, and that's what you're, I guess, what it's potentially worth. Like, I'm willing to have that
Yeah.
conversation and build that rapport. Uh, what would you say though? Like, you were talking about like speed. Like, I haven't seen these types of transactions really move that fast. Like,
It's because what we think is supposed to happen. We want the deal done. I will share with you almost every time that I've sped through a deal, a lot of bad things have happened.
hmm.
So slow them down. It's okay. I mean, let the other people that are trying to get that deal look desperate. Let the other people who are up against try to put a ton of pressure on. In fact, you can kind of make fun of them like, hey, I'm not that guy that's going to put pressure on you that it has to get done right now or it won't ever get done.
Hmm. Scott, I have this is kind of like, I just like ask people this. Where do you think AI is impacting the M&A space?
Um, for good, it's a fast reach out. For bad, everybody sounds the same. In the world of M&A, hope this message finds you well. I mean, there's like 70 or 80 keywords that people automatically go, you didn't write that. I got made fun of. Tacos are a big part of my life. My dad, as a kid, every Sunday would cook tacos, and sometimes he would make dinner for less fortunate on Sundays. And so, like in remembrance of my dad, I talk about tacos a lot. And they just happen to be one of the greatest foods on the planet, by the way. And somebody came to me and they said, it's not really professional for you to talk about tacos. And I said, I don't care, right? If I'm talking about tacos in one of my messages, you can guarantee AI did not write it.
Right.
So there are elements of you that you want to put in, and if you're relying on somebody else to do the work, you don't always know what's going to be there. I took a lot of copywriting courses in 2008, 2009, and the way that you write copy is the way that you speak. So if you're struggling with it and you want to send out a message, you just pull out a voice recording, like, how would I say it? And then you create that message exactly how it was on the voice recorder.
Can you
You don't need
explain
AI.
can you explain what you just said right there? And this is something I've been thinking on I guess recently was in this space, people have this like kind of aura of like the private equity guys, ruthless private equity guys coming in, stripping your business, turning it into a shell, and completely just plugging in their team, and then just take like buying like an asset almost, and then just like getting rid of your legacy. And you said something about the taco kind of example, and lately I've been just thinking like you do need to differentiate yourself, but like also like how do you get away from this aura of cold, ruthless business and just be like a more of a actual like person here, you know? Like I, I hope I'm explaining that right. I don't know if it came out
Are you,
correctly, but
let me clarify are you asking me, how do you be the person that you are?
yeah, like more authentic and just like realize like you can be whoever you want, right? And there is no level of profession like yeah, be a little professional, but like, you know, in a sense, like I guess what I'm asking is like taking not taking this as serious as people think, right? Like,
So they're professional and then they're super professional.
yeah.
Just like there's business casual and then there's like dress up. I treat conversations as business casual. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say I'm gonna laugh at myself. I'm gonna say I'm such a goofball because it shows that I'm a human being. And if I show myself being too perfect, you're gonna expect things from me that I cannot deliver.
Hmm.
So I would rather be the person, the human, somebody sending the message, talking the way that I would normally talk, saying what I would normally say.
Hmm.
And it's the thing that makes me unique. In the backseat of my car, I should have thrown one on. I've got Aloha shirts, right?
Hmm.
Like if you see me in most coaching, most training, most conversations, I've got a Ren Spooner Aloha shirt on. Like that's everybody knows it. They're like, oh, where's your Aloha shirt? Was out at the volcano late last night, packed it in the bag, didn't throw it on the front seat for this interview.
How do you set expectations with sellers when it comes to what you will accept, what you won't, and just like the timeline ultimately that you're working with them on? Like, um, reason why I mentioned this is we also touched on bad deals, right? We touched
Sure.
on if you're not setting the expectation and you're not getting like you need to get that information up front before you work with this person. Um, but how do you go about that situation? Like when you're talking to the owner of the business?
It comes to your sales word track. It comes to your conversation. This is how I prefer deals to be done. And then you lay it out one by one. If it's like, here is something that people don't necessarily pay attention to. If you and I were having a conversation and I'm trying to set some expectations and we're on this Zoom, I'd say, hey, I'm going to share my screen here for a second. I'd open a Google Doc that's blank. I'd put your name on it. I'd put the date and I'd say, here's what I'm going to need from you to make this deal work out or to even get it going. I'm going to need financials. I'm going to need information about your org chart. I'm going to need some information about your structure. It's just very straightforward. And then it's, hey, I'm going to email this to you. What email do you want me to send it to? Who do you want me to give it to? Who on your team needs to see this? And you're going to find out really quick if somebody says, well, I'm not willing to give you that, that deal is not, it's over. Like, okay, well, why don't we connect in the future when it's, of greater importance or when this is something you actually want to do? And if you listen, this is how I talk to people. Like, as I'm speaking right now is what you would expect on a Zoom call or a phone call with me. Totally get it, completely understand. Right? I'm probably at about 105 words per minute right now.
Are you using any tools to track that, or is just that just all in your head?
I because like as of right now, I have 3,700 YouTube videos. I had to get used to how fast to talk on video and how to have conversations. So I timed it out. I could tell you how long I've been talking to somebody. I could tell you how long I've been creating a video. It's standard operating procedure for me at this point.
Hmm. Where do you think, well, like people are struggling with when it comes to getting deals done?
Taking the action. The fear is I'm going to get told no. And we get told no all day, every day, and we don't even realize it. Today, I got to drive over to the beach. I'll probably get cut off in traffic. That's a no. We don't register it as a no. We don't take like that. Gosh darn it! I just got rejected. We don't look at it that way. Uh, we get rejected all day, every day. I was just at one of the big box stores grabbing some drinks, and a lady cut in front of me in line. Okay, she had something to do, whatever. I got told no. It's just we tend to think we're going to make a big deal about it because of business.
You take it personal, or some people take it personal, in a sense, or why do they feel where that is like such an insult to them or something like that?
Deep down inside, it starts questioning who they are and their being as a person. It could come down to shame. Like I'm not worthy to do a deal, or I'm embarrassed. Hey, I make on average 4 mistakes a day. On number 4, I go home and I take a nap and the count starts over again. I make mistakes. I lose deals. I get deals. I've broken deals on my fault for missing something. I am not a perfect human being. And I never try to represent myself to be one because I can't live to that expectation. Well, if I'm not a perfect human being, that means I'm going to get told no, but I'm also going to get told yes.
Love that.
And a no today may be a no for today, not no forever.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Scott, we're running out of time here, and I love this conversation that I had with you. And I just want to be able to point the audience to wherever they need to go to find you online and reach out for help or get advice or whatever you can help them with. Is there a specific link or anything you want me to put in the video or you want to direct people to?
I've got a YouTube channel for consulting deals and doing mergers and acquisitions. It's called Consulting Secrets with Scott Silvenbell. I think I have 50 videos on there. By the end of the year, I'll have 200 or 250. You can check that out. I've got nothing to sell anybody today. Like, I have no expectation of somebody saying, "I like that guy. Let me give you $1 billion." Well, wait a minute. Let me give you $1 billion or a glass bottom hut in Tahiti. That might be really cool.
Yeah. Well, you know, at least a good follow would be helpful. So I'll tell everybody like, hey, you know what? Follow you on YouTube and check out your channel because I truly believe working with you, like you have great advice and a ton of experience in this space. So everybody check out Scott. Again, Scott, appreciate having you on.
Yeah, got to give you the shaka, bro. Like, hey, mahalos.
All right, Scott.